Welcome to RPG PhD, where we dive deep into the art and science of tabletop role-playing games. I'm Dr. Ben, and today we're tackling a crucial question. Why do challenges in games make them fun? Whether it's a deadly dungeon, a tricky mystery, or a high-stakes negotiation, challenges are at the heart of every great RPG session. But what is it about overcoming obstacles that keeps us coming back for more? In this episode, we'll break down the psychology behind challenge and fun, exploring theories like flow, self-determination, and narrative engagement. Plus, I'll give you some practical tips on how to craft better challenges as a GM, or how to engage better as a player. So let's roll the dice and dive in. Games by design put obstacles in players' way for them to overcome. In fact, one philosopher defined playing a game as the voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary obstacles. Yet, players relish these challenges because they create a sense of achievement, immersion, and camaraderie. In tabletop role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Warhammer, or Call of Cthulhu, carefully crafted challenges are central to the fun. So today, let's examine how game challenges contribute to enjoyment through multiple psychological lenses. Flow theory, which is immersion via optimal challenge. Self-determination theory, which is fulfilling needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And behavioral reinforcement, rewards and consequences, as well as narrative engagement and social cooperation theories. Flow is the state of deep immersion and enjoyment in an activity. Psychologists note that people in a flow state often report a merging of action and awareness, intense focus, a loss of self-consciousness, and a distorted sense of time. In the context of games, achieving flow requires certain conditions. The goals must be clear, feedback must be immediate, and crucially, the difficulty of the task should match the player's skill level. In other words, challenge plays a pivotal role in immersion. A game that is too easy becomes boring, while one that is too hard becomes frustrating. When challenge is just right, players enter that zone where they are fully engaged in the game. If a game's difficulty is too low relative to the player's skill, they may experience boredom or apathy. If it's too high, they feel worry or anxiety. The sweet spot is the flow channel, where challenge and skill are balanced, leading to a state of energized focus and enjoyment. Tabletop role-playing games are well suited to hit this flow sweet spot because a human game master can adjust the difficulty dynamically. For example, if a D&D combat encounter is turning out too easy, the GM might add an extra wave of monsters. If it's too hard, the DM can fudge an enemy's hit points, all to keep players challenged enough to be excited, but not so much that they become discouraged. Research on flow shows that people are most likely to get and stay in the zone when the challenge is calibrated to their abilities, avoiding both frustration and boredom. A well-balanced session, say a tough but winnable battle against a dragon, can induce this state of flow, as players concentrate intensely, lose track of real time, and become fully absorbed in the adventure. The result is an immersive fun, the kind of high engagement that makes a 4-hour game session feel like it flew by in minutes. Self-determination theory offers another framework for understanding why challenges are fun. SDT posits that humans have 3 basic psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness, which, when satisfied, enhance intrinsic motivation and well-being. Games can be so engaging because they often satisfy these needs. In fact, studies applying SDT to games have found that players' enjoyment and desire to keep playing are strongly predicated by the degree to which a game fulfills their needs for autonomy, feeling competent, and feeling connected to others. Let's break down these 3 needs in the context of tabletop role-playing games. Autonomy, the need to feel in control of one's choices. Tabletop role-playing games offer enormous autonomy. Players can create their own characters, decide how to approach problems, and influence the story through their decisions. Unlike a video game that might limit you to a few dialogue options, a tabletop role-playing game lets you try any action you can imagine. I try to befriend the goblin instead of fighting it. This freedom gives players a sense of volition and personal agency. They aren't just following a script, they're co-authors of the experience. Such autonomy keeps players invested because the challenges are tackled on their own terms, a satisfying expression of free choice. Competence, the need to feel effective and masterful. Overcoming challenges in a game provides a powerful sense of competence or achievement. Tabletop role-playing games are essentially competence playgrounds. Solving a tricky puzzle, slaying a powerful monster, or unraveling a mystery all affirm the player's skills and cleverness. Psychologists note that people have a need for challenge as part of building competence. We enjoy opportunities to stretch our abilities and feel effective. A well-designed game challenge is optimally difficult so that when players succeed, they genuinely feel accomplished. Tabletop role-playing games also provide explicit markers of growing competence, like experience points and leveling up, which signal progress and skill development. All of this feeds the fun by making players feel capable and accomplished in the game world. Relatedness, or the need to feel connected to others. Tabletop role-playing games are inherently social. Cooperative games, typically played with a group of friends around a table or online. The challenges in a tabletop role-playing game are usually faced together as a party, which builds camaraderie. Working as a team to overcome obstacles, whether coordinating tactics in a battle or collectively deciphering clues in a mystery, fulfills our desire to belong and to share experiences. Psychologists have found that feeling social connection, this relatedness, during play significantly boosts enjoyment. In a session, this might manifest as the group joking and laughing together, cheering when someone's clever plan succeeds, or even empathizing in character when a comrade falls. The friendship and trust that develop through cooperative play can make the game's victories feel sweeter and the defeats easier to bear. Even outside of the game's narrative, players bond through the shared experience, hanging out, telling stories, and creating memories. This relatedness is a key part of why the challenges are fun. It's team fun, a sense that we're in this together, which can be deeply satisfying. By meeting players' needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness, tabletop role-playing game challenges create a recipe for intrinsic motivation. Players tackle quests and obstacles not just for in-game rewards, but because it feels rewarding on a personal level. They have freedom to act, chances to prove themselves, and friends by their side. A well-run game will balance these elements, for instance, giving players choice in how to solve a problem, ensuring the task is tough but doable, and encouraging group interaction to keep everyone fully engaged. Indeed, when a game session hits all three needs, players often describe it as highly enjoyable and are eager to play again. Another angle to the psychology of fun is through behaviorism, how rewards and consequences reinforce our desire to play. Skinner's theory of operant conditioning explains that behaviors which are rewarded tend to be repeated, while those met with punishment tend to diminish. Games, by their nature, leverage reinforcement loops to keep players engaged. Every time players overcome a challenge, the game provides some reward or positive feedback, encouraging them to continue. In tabletop role-playing games, these rewards might be tangible, experience points, gold, new gear for your character, or intangible, praise from the GM, the thrill of victory, narrative payoffs like saving a village, for example. Either way, the brain registers that something good happened because of the player's actions, reinforcing their investment in the game. On the flip side, games also have consequences for failure or poor choices. A character is critically injured, the group might have to flee a fight, or a clue is missed. These negative outcomes create tension and teach players to adjust their strategies. Crucially, punishment in games is not so harsh that it makes people quit. A total party kill may end a particular story, but usually players start again on a new adventure. Rather, it usually serves to increase the stakes and thus the excitement. Knowing that failure is possible makes success that much more rewarding. For example, if the party's rogue's life is on the line as they attempt to disarm a deadly trap, everyone around the table is on the edge of their seat. The risk of a bad outcome, the trap springing, heightens the drama, and if the rogue succeeds, the relief and triumph are palpable. This emotional roller coaster is part of the fun. Modern game design often employs variable reinforcement schedules, a concept Skinner demonstrated in his famous experiments. If rewards are given unpredictably on a random schedule, it can be even more engaging than a fixed reward schedule. Tabletop role-playing games incorporate this intuitively. Consider the uncertainty of dice rolls in Treasure. A treasure chest in D&D might contain a common item or a legendary artifact. Players never know until they open it. That uncertainty maybe we'll get something amazing, creates a rush of anticipation. In fact, one game design article notes that not knowing when the next reward will come is more exciting and keeps players hooked, comparing it to Skinner's rats pressing a lever more fervently when the reward was random. This explains why players will happily grind through combat encounters or long dungeon crawls. The next loot drop could be that rare magical sword they've been dreaming of. It's the same psychology that drives players to keep killing monsters in video game RPGs or opening loot boxes, the lottery. This lottery-like thrill of a possible big payoff. As one commentator put it, this dynamic is why games and MMORPGs are compelling. You get to open that treasure chest and maybe, just maybe, get something great. Rewards aren't only material. GMs can reinforce player behavior by weaving consequences into the narrative. Did the party cleverly avoid a fight? The grateful townspeople throw them a banquet, which is a social reward. Did a player come up with a creative solution? The GM might reward a bonus experience point, or simply emphasize how their ingenuity changed the story for the better. These moments act as positive reinforcement, teaching players that taking on challenges in inventive or bold ways is worthwhile. Over time, players learn to associate tackling challenges with gratification, whether it's the dopamine hit of gaining a level or the storytelling satisfaction of accomplishing a heroic deed. This conditioning contributes to the fun factor by keeping players motivated and eager for the next challenge. Much like a well-designed quest loop in a video game keeps players coming back for more. Not all challenges are purely about mechanics or rewards. A huge part of what makes them fun, especially in tabletop role-playing games, is their meaning in the story. Humans are storytelling creatures. We resonate with narratives, and games leverage this by embedding challenges within a story context. In a role-playing game, every challenge has narrative significance. It's not just any monster, it's the dragon that's been terrorizing the kingdom. Solving a puzzle might reveal a clue to a mystery. A difficult choice might determine an NPC's fate. These narrative stakes give weight to the challenge and create emotional investment. Players care about succeeding not just to beat the game, but to see the story unfold in a satisfying way, or to protect the characters and the world they've grown attached to. Research on narrative engagement suggests that a compelling story can greatly enhance a player's involvement. A well-integrated narrative provides context and purpose for the gameplay, making the experience richer. In tabletop role-playing games, the story isn't something pre-recorded or passively observed, it's actively shaped by the players. This active involvement means players often feel a strong sense of ownership over the narrative. When they face a meaningful challenge, they are essentially at a pivotal plot point of a story they are co-writing. This is highly engaging. Players often report feeling pulled into the world of the game, but temporarily losing awareness of the real world, much like being engrossed in a novel or a movie. The difference is, in a tabletop role-playing game, the players are characters in that story, so the engagement is both cognitive and personal. Consider an example. In Call of Cthulhu, the players might be challenged with deciphering an occult tome to stop a cult's ritual. This is not a simple brain teaser done in isolation, it's laden with narrative tension. Time is running out, evil forces are at work, and emotional weight. Perhaps the character's own sanity is at risk as they delve into forbidden knowledge. The challenge enhances the storytelling. If the players succeed, they feel like heroes who narrowly averted cosmic disaster. If they fail, the tragedy of unleashing a Lovecraftian horror becomes a memorable part of the tale. Either way, the meaning of that challenge resonates. Similarly, a moral dilemma in a game, say deciding whether to save a friend or complete the mission, is a narrative challenge that can deeply engage players' emotions. They might debate in character and out of character, fully absorbed in the fictional situation. Such moments can be more gripping than any combat because they speak to character development and values, making the game feel like an interactive drama. Meaningful challenges also create opportunities for fiero, the Italian word for the intense excitement after overcoming adversity. Fiero has been described as that triumphant feeling when we throw our arms over our head and yell in victory. Story-driven challenges amplify this because the victory is not just a check mark on a scorecard, it's a victory in the narrative. For instance, finally defeating the arch-villain who has been harrying the party for the entire campaign will likely produce an ecstatic reaction around the table. Players might literally jump up and cheer, reveling in a mix of relief, pride, and joy. They've not only beaten a tough foe, but they've also concluded an epic story arc. That emotional high is one of the core reasons we find challenges fun. Games provide a space to experience adversity and triumph, and when the adversity is woven into a story we care about, the triumph feels meaningful. This is also why players often reminisce about past game challenges in narrative terms. Remember when we held off the orc horde until the sun rose? That was awesome! The challenges become memorable stories. Interactivity is key here. Game challenges allow for player agency in the narrative. Players can often tackle a challenge in a creative or unorthodox way, changing how the story plays out. This is something even many digital games strive for. For example, in Mass Effect, giving players meaningful choices that affect the storyline ensures they are invested in the outcome, leading to a more engaging experience. Tabletop role-playing games take this to the next level. A GM might have a plot in mind, but clever players will invariably come up with unexpected solutions or detours. This emergent narrative means the story adapts to the player's actions. When players realize that their ideas and strategies genuinely matter, that they can outsmart the villain in a way the GM didn't foresee, or negotiate a peace treaty instead of fighting, the challenges feel significant. The storytelling isn't on rails, it's a living thing, and the players are collaborators. This can greatly enhance immersion and emotional investment because the players feel true agency. They're not just experiencing the narrative, they are creating it. Meaningful challenges in tabletop role-playing games engage both the mind and the heart. They make players think how to solve the problem and make them feel, what does this mean for the story or the characters? By enhancing the narrative and providing emotional highs and lows, such challenges turn a game into an engrossing saga. The fun comes not only from winning, but from the dramatic journey that the challenge takes the players on. The social aspect of tabletop role-playing games is a major contributor to the fun of facing challenges. Humans are social beings, and accomplishing things together often feels more rewarding than going solo. In a role-playing game group, players bring their unique characters and skills to the table, and challenges become a team endeavor. This dynamic draws on principles of social and cooperative psychology, where group problem solving can enhance motivation and creativity. In fact, research shows that when a group is in sync, essentially achieving a kind of group flow, they are more likely to solve problems with creative, surprising solutions. Around the RPG table, this might manifest as an almost magical moment where the whole party clicks. Everyone contributes an idea or action seamlessly, and together they pull off an ingenious plan to defeat a monster or escape a trap that none of them could have managed alone. Such moments are incredibly satisfying for players, cementing the feeling of teamwork and shared victory. Cooperative gameplay also fosters strong social bonds. Solving challenges together builds trust and camaraderie among players. Psychologically, each successful group challenge can reinforce pro-social feelings. Studies have found, for example, that playing games cooperatively can increase empathy and cooperation among participants. Around a table, you can often observe this. Players celebrate each other's successes. Awesome critical hit. And support each other through failures. Don't worry, we'll get them next time. The shared experience of struggle and triumph brings the group closer. Many gaming groups report that the friendships formed through tabletop role-playing games are what they value most. The dice and characters may be fictional, but the laughs, the suspense, and the collective problem-solving are very real social glue. Another aspect of social play is the phenomenon of emergent play. Because the group, player plus the GM, collaboratively create the scenario moment to moment, unexpected situations and solutions emerge organically. These unplanned developments often become the highlight of the session, the kind of hilarious mishap or brilliant improvised strategy that people talk about for weeks or even years later. Emergent play is essentially group creativity in action. From a psychology standpoint, it's similar to improvisational theater or jazz ensembles, where each member listens and contributes to create something new. In role-playing games, the GM might set up a challenge one way, but the players might tackle it in a completely unforeseen manner, causing the story to veer off script in a delightful way. For example, the party might avoid the boss fight with the Goblin King by deciding to engage in a bit of clever diplomacy or trickery, turning a combat challenge into a social challenge on the fly. This emergent outcome rewards the group's collective creativity and can feel immensely satisfying. It's their unique solution, not one pre-written in any module. Some psychologists have noted that great creativity often springs from collaboration and conversation in groups. And tabletop role-playing game groups see this firsthand. The fun of a challenge is thus amplified by the social interaction. The process of bouncing ideas off each other, splitting up tasks. You distract the guards while I pick the lock. And combining abilities, classic combo moves, like a wizard dousing an area in flame and the rogue immediately capitalizing on the distraction, is enjoyable in itself. The social context provides a safety net and emotional support that can make challenges more enjoyable. When things go wrong, having friends around to joke about it or strategize anew keeps frustration at bay. Likewise, when a challenge is overcome, everyone shares in the elation. This collective emotion heightens the experience. Humans tend to feel emotions more strongly when experienced in a group. Think of how laughter or applause is contagious in a crowd. In a cooperative game, one player's excitement infects the others. The social and cooperative nature of tabletop role-playing games transforms challenges from mere obstacles into opportunities for group bonding and emergent fun. Through teamwork, communication, and the spontaneous creativity of multiple minds at play, group challenges become a source of enjoyment that is greater than the sum of its parts. The psychology here is clear. We enjoy being part of a team, we thrive on shared goals, and we find meaning in communal experiences. Tabletop role-playing games leverage that by making every dragon slain or riddle solved a team victory, and every setback a shared challenge to overcome. Mechanical, narrative, and social challenges in tabletop RPGs can take many forms. A well-rounded game often features a mix of all three, and each type engages players in different ways. Mechanical challenges, which are rules and tactics, these are challenges rooted in the game's mechanics and systems, the kind of obstacles that test players' strategic thinking, resource management, or mastery of rules. Combat encounters are the quintessential mechanical challenge in games like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. For example, a battle against a group of monsters requires understanding the combat rules, choosing the right abilities or spells, positioning characters advantageously, and maybe managing limited resources like spell slots or healing potions. Players must think tactically and often do some mathematical risk-reward calculations. If I charge the ogre, can I survive its counterattack? Puzzle challenges also fall into this category. Perhaps the party encounters a magical riddle or a pattern-matching puzzle in an ancient temple. Solving it might involve logical reasoning or using clues provided by the GM. Mechanical challenges are fun because they engage the analytical problem-solving part of our brains and give a clear sense of competence when solved. They're like the game part of the game, scratching the itch for strategy and clever planning. In mechanical challenges, the rules and game pieces come to the forefront. Maybe there's dice, maps, miniatures, character sheets with statistics. For instance, the players are using a grid, map, and miniatures to plan their moves during a battle. They're discussing tactics, rolling dice to see if the attacks hit, and likely doing quick arithmetic to calculate damage or probabilities. These kinds of challenges create fun through system mastery. Players enjoy learning how to optimize their characters or synergize as a team within the rule framework. Many tabletop RPGs provide a steady progression of mechanical challenge. As players level up and enemies get stronger, the tactical complexity often increases, keeping that challenge skill balance in the flow channel. Different games emphasize mechanics to varying degrees. Pathfinder, for example, is known for its detailed rules and character options, offering rich mechanical depth for those who love crunchy tactical play. On the other hand, some indie RPGs simplify mechanics to focus elsewhere, but almost every tabletop role-playing game has some mechanical element that challenges the player's strategic side. For players who identify as achievers or strategists, mechanical challenges are a primary source of fun. Narrative challenges are obstacles embedded in the story or plot that require players to engage with the fictional scenario on a thematic or creative level. These can include mysteries to solve, moral dilemmas, or even story-driven missions where the challenge is less about dice and numbers and more about understanding what's happening and deciding on the best course of action. A classic example is an investigative scenario in Call of Cthulhu. The players must piece together clues from various locations and NPCs to figure out what cosmic horror they're dealing with. The challenge here is a mix of information gathering and deduction, essentially a narrative puzzle. Another example might be a situation in D&D where the heroes have to decide how to deal with a corrupt mayor. Do they expose him publicly, handle things covertly, or perhaps make a deal? There might not be a single correct answer, but the narrative challenge lies in weighing the consequences and morally role-playing through the decision. Narrative challenges are enjoyable because they engage players' imagination and emotions. They often have the most meaningful payoffs in terms of story development. Solving a mystery gives the joy of revelation. Aha! So the butler was the cultist all along. And making a tough choice gives a sense of affecting the world. We chose to destroy the cursed artifact even though it cost our characters dearly, and that made an unforgettable story. These challenges also encourage creative solutions that aren't always obvious. Sometimes the best way past a narrative obstacle is to think outside the box. Maybe the players concoct a wild plan to stage a fake kidnapping to draw out the villain. GMs love when players engage at this level because it shows they're immersed in the world and taking the story seriously. In many modern RPGs and story-focused games, narrative challenges have become central. Even video games like the Witcher series or Disco Elysium draw players in with narrative depth. But tabletop role-playing games allow an unparalleled level of story interaction. In practice, GMs often blend narrative and mechanical challenges. For instance, a boss fight, mechanical, is also the climax of the story, narrative. How the players prepare for it, maybe gathering allies or finding the boss's weaknesses through research, is a narrative challenge that, if successful, makes the ensuing fight easier. Well-crafted campaigns alternate between exploration and problem-solving scenes and action scenes, giving players a variety of narrative puzzles and mechanical tests. This keeps gameplay dynamic and caters to different player strengths. A player who isn't the best at tactical combat might shine when it comes to negotiating peace between warring factions. Social challenges involve interactions either between player characters and NPCs or even among player characters themselves. They must be navigated through roleplay and interpersonal skill. In-game, this could mean persuading, deceiving, bargaining, or empathizing any scenario where talking or sometimes scheming is the key. For example, the party might need to convince the town guard to let them into the castle after hours, or they might attend a royal ball where they must network and gather information without offending any of the nobles. Perhaps two members of the party have characters with clashing goals. Resolving that conflict in character is a social challenge too. Unlike mechanical challenges, there might not be strict rules for these interactions, though many games do have social skill checks. Unlike pure narrative puzzles, the focus is on people and relationships. Social challenges are a staple of tabletop role-playing games because they leverage one of the medium's greatest strengths: live human interaction and improvisation. Players often find these encounters fun in a very different way. It's essentially collaborative storytelling and acting. A witty repartee with a villain can be as satisfying as defeating them in combat. Successfully lying your way past a checkpoint through clever roleplay can give a real sense of accomplishment and relief that you avoided a fight. Moreover, social challenges let players flex their character's personality and backstory. A shy player in real life might enjoy playing a bold, silver-tongued bard who can talk circles around others, and feel proud when they pull it off, and save the day with words rather than swords. From a psychological perspective, social challenges tap into our skills in theory of mind, figuring out what others want or will do, and communication. They also satisfy the relatedness need in a unique way. You're not just working with your fellow players, you're often building relationships with fictional characters in the world. Successfully forming an alliance with an NPC faction, for example, provides a sense of social accomplishment. This can be reinforcing and encourage further roleplay. GMs can make social challenges interesting by giving NPCs their own motivations and quirks, so players have to genuinely engage in conversation and strategy, not just roll a die. Some RPG systems, like Vampire the Masquerade or Blades in the Dark, heavily emphasize social intrigue and deceptions as core challenges, catering to players who love politics and mind games. It's worth noting that these categories often overlap. A simple scenario can include all three. Imagine a heist mission. It has a mechanical element, planning the break-in, dealing with security systems, which is a tactical challenge. A social element, maybe conning a guard or blending in at a party to not arouse suspicion. And a narrative element, the overarching story of why the heist matters. Perhaps a moral choice about whether to keep the loot or return it to its rightful owner. The best tabletop role-playing game adventures juggle these seamlessly, ensuring every player finds something to engage with. By understanding the types of challenges, a game master can also tailor the game to players' preferences. For instance, a group of combat-happy players might get more mechanical challenges, whereas a group of drama enthusiasts might enjoy more social and narrative dilemmas. Given all these psychological factors, the role of the game master is crucial in orchestrating fun challenges. A good GM acts almost like a game designer on the fly, adjusting and presenting obstacles in a way that keeps players motivated and the experience enjoyable. Here are some key ways GMs can tailor challenges using the frameworks we've discussed. Balancing difficulty or flow. As mentioned earlier, hitting that challenge skill sweet spot is vital for immersion. A GM should gauge the party's skill level and adjust encounters accordingly. This might mean scaling enemy strength, adding hints if a puzzle stumps the players for too long, or ramping up complexity as players improve over time. The idea is to keep the game just challenging enough. If the players are steamrolling every encounter, boredom, the GM can throw a curveball, perhaps an enemy with an unexpected ability or a complication during travel. If they're getting frustrated or having anxiety because every fight nearly kills them, the GM can dial it back, or allow a narrative solution as an out. In essence, the GM is performing dynamic difficulty adjustment. Much like an escape room operator might subtly tweak clues or give nudges to ensure the group has a good time, a tabletop role-playing game GM monitors players' progress and reactions and might adjust the difficulty on the fly to keep the experience fun and engaging for everyone. To support flow, GMs should give players clear objectives and quick feedback on their actions. Players enjoy knowing what they're trying to achieve, rescue the hostages from the cultists, and need feedback to feel progress. You disarm the trap, the door clicks open. Unclear goals can lead to player confusion or apathy, so even in open world style games, a GM will usually telegraph possible quests or problems to solve. Feedback in tabletop role-playing games often comes through narration. If players try a strategy, the GM describes the result vividly, which is the feedback loop that keeps them engaged. This aligns with Flow's theory's emphasis on clear goals and immediate feedback. For example, in a mystery scenario, when players formulate a theory and investigate a clue, the game master reveals that the diary confirms your suspicions. This is instant feedback that rewards their thinking and guides their next steps. Good feedback also means acknowledging partial successes. Even if players fail a roll, the GM might provide a minor clue or a consolation benefit. You don't pick the lock, but you realize the door is very old and could be broken down with force. This way, players are never stuck without information on how they're doing. GMs should use rewards and consequences thoughtfully to reinforce the kind of play that will maximize fun. On the reward side, this includes giving out experience points, loots, or narrative rewards at appropriate intervals. Many GMs ensure that every session or two, players achieve something significant, a mini victory or a treasure to keep the momentum. It's also important to vary the rewards. Sometimes a cool new item, sometimes an NPC's gratitude, sometimes simply the achievement of a story milestone. This variety, especially with a dose of unpredictability, maybe random loot tables or the chance of a critical success delivering an unexpected boon, taps into that powerful keep playing drive. On the consequence side, a GM shouldn't shy away from letting failure happen. Fear of failure is what makes challenges exciting. However, a skilled GM turns failures into interesting twists rather than dead ends. This is often called failing forward. For instance, if the players fail to stop the villain in time, the campaign doesn't end. Instead, perhaps the villain's plan succeeds and now the world is scarred, but the adventure continues in a changed world. You can think of it like a second act of a story. By doing this, the GM ensures that even the punishments or failures keep the players engaged and give them new motivation, new challenges, rather than discouraging them. In line with self-determination theory, allowing players meaningful choices in how they face challenges will make the game more fun. GMs can prepare multiple possible solutions to a problem or be open to creative approaches the players invent on the spot. Railroading players, forcing one solution, can reduce the sense of autonomy and make challenges feel like chores. Instead, a GM might design a scenario with a few obvious options. Sneak in, talk your way in, or bust the front door, for example. And also be ready to adapt if the players surprise them. You want to dig a tunnel under the castle? Okay, let's go for it. When players feel their ideas matter, they'll be more invested in tackling challenges. It also leads to emergent gameplay, which, as discussed, often results in memorable and fun moments. Essentially, the GM provides the sandbox and the toys, but lets the players decide how to build the sandcastle. A tabletop RPG party is typically a mix of character types and also player personalities. One player might love the spotlight and social challenges, another relishes crunching numbers in combat. Another enjoys deciphering lore and clues. A great GM will rotate the types of challenges so that over the course of a few sessions, everyone gets a chance to feel competent and shine. For example, maybe tonight's session has a big tactical battle where the strategist player gets to show off. And next week there's a courtly intrigue that lets the role player flex their charisma. Moreover, within one encounter, GMs can design multifaceted challenges. A battle that also requires solving a puzzle mid-fight. Think of a combat on unstable rune-covered ground where someone needs to deactivate the magic while others hold off the enemies, which encourages players to cooperate and each take the part that suits them. This inclusive design ensures each player remains engaged and avoids anyone feeling useless or bored. It also strengthens relatedness. Players appreciate each other's characters' contributions, reinforcing that sense of team. When every player has a moment of feeling, I contributed, I did well, the whole group's enjoyment rises. Even mechanical challenges can be spiced up with narrative context to make them more gripping. GMs can tailor the emotional stakes of a challenge to the player's motivations. If a player has written that their character's hometown was destroyed by orcs, you can bet that player will be extra fired up if the current quest is to stop an orc warlord. Aligning challenges with character backstories or the things players care about in-game makes the fun more personal. It also ties back to narrative engagement. The challenge isn't in a vacuum, it's part of their character's journey. Game masters should feel free to tug at heartstrings occasionally, a rescue mission for a beloved NPC, a moral quandary that challenges the group's principles, or a seemingly undefeatable foe that tests their resolve. When players are emotionally invested, they will talk about the game for days afterward. That said, a balance is important. Not every encounter should be life and death serious. Mixing in some light-hearted challenges, a goofy fairy puzzle, or a comic relief NPC who must be persuaded can keep the emotional experience of the game balanced and enjoyable. No plan survives contact with the players. Tailoring challenges is an ongoing process of feedback and adjustment. Good game masters listen to player feedback, both explicit and implicit. If the players are getting visibly frustrated as a puzzle, it might be a sign to drop another hint. If they're breezing through combats and getting complacent, it might be time to raise the stakes. Many game masters do a session zero or periodic check-in to understand what players find fun or frustrating. This open communication can guide how future challenges are designed. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure the players are engaged, attentively participating, neither zoning out nor feeling hopeless. By staying flexible, a game master can steer the game toward that zone of proximal development where learning and fun are maximized. In essence, the GM serves as a curator of challenge. They set the stage, moderate the difficulty, and frame the obstacles in a way that aligns with psychological drivers of fun. It's a delicate balancing act. Too easy or too linear, and players lose interest. Too hard or too chaotic, and players lose heart. But when done well, players might not even notice the hand of the GM at all. They'll just remember how thrilling the adventure was. In a tabletop role-playing game, this might mean knowing when to escalate a fight or when to let a brilliant player idea replace your planned plot. The payoff is a table full of happy players who can't wait for the next session. Challenge is the engine that drives the fun in games, and in the realm of tabletop RPGs, it takes on a special richness. A tabletop role-playing game challenge is never just an obstacle, it's a chance for players to slip into an immersive flow state, to exercise creativity and strategic thinking, to feel accomplished and connected to others, and to push the story forward in exciting ways. We've seen through multiple psychological lenses how and why this works. Flow theory shows that the right level of challenge leads to deep engagement. Self-determination theory explains that challenges make us feel competent, give us freedom to act, and draw us together socially, all key ingredients for intrinsic fun. Behavioral psychology reminds us that well-timed rewards and the thrill of risk keeps us coming back enthusiastically. Narrative and cognitive theories highlight that challenges aren't just physical or mental tasks. When imbued with story, they captivate our imagination and emotions, resulting in greater investment and the sweet joy of fiero when we prevail. And social psychology illuminates the fact that doing hard things together can be even more fun than doing them alone, as cooperation unleashes creativity and forges friendships. Tabletop RPGs, with their live human element and open-ended format, uniquely combine all these factors. A session of D&D or Call of Cthulhu can seamlessly transition from a tactical puzzle to an ethical dilemma to a comedic roleplay scene, presenting different types of challenges that engage players on every level. Skilled game masters act as facilitators, carefully crafting and adjusting these challenges to maintain that delicate balance where players are challenged but not defeated, supported but not railroaded. When everything clicks, the result is pure playful delight. Players lose themselves in the game, scream with excitement and a victory, groan at a narrow failure, but immediately strategize anew, and later recount the adventure like a great movie they lived through. Ultimately, the psychology of challenge in games boils down to a paradoxically simple truth. We have fun doing hard things. It sounds counterintuitive. Shouldn't fun be easy? But as any gamer will tell you, the most memorable and enjoyable moments are often those where we overcame something difficult. Tabletop RPGs embrace this fully. They ask a group of friends to take on dragons, mysteries, even gods, armed with nothing but pencils, dice, and their collective wits. And time and again, those friends will eagerly answer the call because the fun is in trying as much as in the succeeding. The challenges give the journey purpose and the victories sweetness. As the last die is rolled and the session ends, everyone leaves with stories to tell and a feeling of accomplishment. In the end, that blend of mental stimulation, emotional resonance, and social bonding is what makes the challenges of tabletop role-playing games so much fun, and why we keep gathering around tables, real or virtual, to seek out new quests and challenges long into the night. So there you have it, the psychology of challenge and how it fuels the fun in tabletop RPGs. Whether it's balancing difficulty for flow, rewarding player creativity, or making challenges meaningful through storytelling, there's a lot that goes into designing an engaging game. What are some of the most memorable challenges you've faced in an RPG? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to RPG PhD, and ring the bell so you never miss a deep dive into game mastery. Thanks for watching. See you next time.